been judging for I think when I started, Noah was still building his boat. So it's been a while. In fact, I think I'm coming up here to judge for you guys in a couple of months' time, I think. I've got a vague feeling it's on my calendar. Somebody up there is waving a hand up. That the one that I want is the one right at the top. That should open up. Okay. My only claim to fame really is public speaking, is I just taught for about 40 years at TAFE colleges and unis and stuff. I don't think I was all that particularly good at it, but I was probably better at the stuff I had to teach than public speaking. But look, it's one of the things that's going to scare you most if you take on doing a little bit of judging is probably getting up and standing and talking to a whole bunch of people. The next slide, please. It really isn't as hard as you think, but it is pretty scary. Like, I am absolutely petrified at the moment, as you can probably tell. But it's really important, though, that when you are going to do a presentation of some description, that nothing worse to put you off if you can't find the place. You know, you get there and you think you know where it is, and you get there and it's not the right place. You're going to be devastated before you even start. So make sure you know what time you're going to start, make sure you know where the place is, make sure you have all your materials. Like, I brought my own laptop today because I have been to so many places where you go to plug it in and it doesn't work. I know it works on mine, and if I can't run the PowerPoint, you know, I'd have to be making this up out of my head at the moment if I couldn't run the PowerPoint. I know I have two little AVs in here. If we can't get the sound going, I know if I plug my laptop into your data projector, you will have sound. So I can get by. So make sure that if you are going to do anything and you've got any kind of equipment that your presentation hinges on, that you have it with you. Because if you've brought all your pictures to show people on a memory stick and you plug it into the club's computer and it doesn't work, what are you going to do next? You know, it's panic time. So make sure it does work. Yep, next one. Fear. Everybody has a fear of public speaking. It was Mark Twain who said there are two types of people. There's people who have fear of public speaking and there are liars. So I'm probably the second one. Yep. Actually, men and women are about as frightened of public speaking as each other. Women are slightly more panicky than men. Women are more panicky anyhow, so it don't really make any difference. My wife's gone for a walk down the street, so I'm pretty safe here at the moment. Yeah, I hope she doesn't get back soon. But look, people are more frightened of even death. Spiders and snakes, and mind you, I reckon if I threw a snake into the audience here, you'd take a bigger runner than getting up here and talking. Okay, you've got to really overcome the nerves. Now, one of the important things of overcoming your nerves, and I'm going to drive our cameraman a little bit crazy because I'm going to walk around a little bit. Overcoming your nerves, if you know what you're talking about, then you're really halfway there. You know, if you're trying to make it up on the spot, or you're frightened you don't really know what you're talking about, then that makes it just so much harder. You need to go through your presentation in advance. Like, I went through these slides last night. I haven't done it for about, maybe 6 months was the last time I went through these slides, but I did go through them last night and try to refresh my memory about it. You don't have to memorise everything. In fact, I think memorising is not the way to go at all. So have a bit of a practice. We'll get onto it a little bit later about notes. It's okay to have notes, but it's best if you don't totally read them. And just watch where you're walking around a little bit, because if I stand here, these guys here can't see that, And on camera club nights, if judges keep being in front of the screen and you're trying to see the picture, then these people over here are going to get pretty sick of me fairly quickly. But what we really would encourage you to do is to have a little bit of a go at it in a nice, friendly environment where people aren't going to chuck things at you. So, camera club people are pretty good people, really. They only get upset when you criticise their pictures. Okay? Don't waffle. which I'm doing a bit now. Try to stick to your time allotted. Now, if you run over time, you can probably have a problem. If you finish a little bit short of time, that's okay, usually. But running over time throws the whole process out. Camera club people get really worried when you start eating into their supper time. You know, the rest of it, they don't care that much, but once it looks like they're going to have to scoff their cup of coffee, they start to get a little bit dodgy at that point. So if you know how much time you've got, try and stick to it. Like I've lost track because I knew when I was supposed to start, we had a bit of a bad start. Okay. Be yourself. Don't try to be Henry Kissinger. You know, like he was one of the greatest orators we've sort of had. Try and speak with a bit of authority and speak clearly. One of the things, if you guys up the back can't hear me, what's going to happen in a very short time is you're going to turn off and stop listening to me. And you'll see it in a camera club of a night is when somebody starts talking really quiet, what happens? The people down the back start chatting to each other. So, you know, make sure everybody can hear you. That's pretty important. Try to put some tone into your voice as well. You know, don't speak in monotones. If you speak like the same speed all the time, you're all going to get pretty sick of that. I mean, you're probably sick of it already, but try not to put too many fillers in. You know, too many ums and ahs and stuff. That takes a fair bit of practice, not doing those kind of things. So you've got to have a sort of a conscious effort not to do it. Most of us will do it some of the time. Some people will do it nearly all the time. Some people can't string a sentence together without about 10 ums and 10 ahs. Okay? Now I was going to show you this, but we're going to jump this right at the moment. I'll show you at the end if we can get them to run, because I needed audio for that. Next one. Movement and posture. If I walk around too much, I'm going to drive you crazy. If I rock around, you know, too much. Today, I'm a little bit stuck to this point because he wants the video. But generally, I would walk around a little bit more than I'm going to do. Sort of try and relate to, you know, I keep losing you behind the screen there, but I want you to be part of the thing. I want you to all to think I'm talking to you rather than just to a group. If you all think that I'm talking to you, then you probably won't go to sleep. Because I've had lots of times with, there's an exam at the end of this, son, so I'd pay attention if you... I've done that a lot of times in my life. Own your space. If you're going to move, move with a bit of purpose. Don't just, you know... It's pretty hard to keep going if you just wander aimlessly around the place, and everybody is going to get pretty sick of that. So make eye contact with people. Hopefully I've made eye contact with nearly everybody in the audience by now. I don't want to hide down here. I really want you to all feel that I am talking to you, not to just this bunch of people. Okay? So there's just some images of don't hide. You will have seen, you probably haven't seen too many of these, but you will have seen these. You know, read, or the thing up in front of their face. You've probably seen that at different times. Yep. Try and keep the attention. Hopefully I'm keeping your attention. None of you seem to have fallen off your chairs asleep just at the moment, so that must be going okay. A little bit of animation is good. A little bit too much animation is not so good. You're going to... I can't dance, so there'll be no dancing, and I can't sing, so there'll be no singing. Yep.
He plays guitar though, guys.
But not very well. Not very well. The content's important. You know, when you can get judges, and they'll come on, and they are really good judges. You've got to remember with judges are doing their best. You know, they are volunteers, they don't get paid for it. They're doing their best. And you can't ask any more than that. I do. I think they should give me more HCs, but they don't. So I've got to live with it. But judges are doing their best. So sometimes you'll get really good judges. Sometimes you'll get not so good judges. But hopefully their content is important. But if the delivery is bad and their content is not so good, it's going to be a lot worse. So if they really know what they're talking about, but aren't a good deliverer, you can still give them a bit of a tick. But if they don't know either of them, well then it's not going to work. So really, if they're boring, the message is going to be lost almost regardless. Yep. That's another one which we'll come back to if we get this sound running. Yep. Okay, death by PowerPoint. Now, if you were doing you might get asked to go along to a club, and some of you people would probably do it up here. You've just been on your trip to Bullamakanka North, and the club says, look, we've got a spot on Wednesday night or whatever night you meet. We'd like you to do a bit of a presentation on the photography you did on your trip. So you have a bit of a PowerPoint presentation as well, and you're going to say, look, we went here and here, and I took photographs here and did this and did that. So PowerPoint can work really well. It jogs your memory. That's what I'm using PowerPoint for today. I'm not reading the PowerPoints. You can read them. You can all read, so you can read the PowerPoints, but they're jogging my memory as to what I should talk about as I'm going along, so I don't leave anything out, hopefully. Simply throwing up slide after slide and reading the words is going to drive you guys crazy, so you don't want to do that. So use PowerPoint really as your prompter rather than your main delivery tool. Yep. Dot points. Try using dot points rather than whole sentences. For the best effect and simplicity, try to keep like 6 dot points to a screen maximum and around about 6 words per dot point. I know that's 8 in that one, but I could have just said 6 words per dot point max, and I could have chopped out no more than. That would make more sense. The more you have to read to get the information in, the more difficult it is for you. So I want to make it as easy as possible. So try and keep it really simple. Doing what I'm doing today doesn't really matter because you're not concentrating on too many other things. Yep. So one of the things with PowerPoint is that if you want to turn everybody off, PowerPoint after PowerPoint, I love this one. As you can clearly see now in slide 397, it's like slide night. Remember slide night when you were a kid? You went round there and the house had all the curtains down and the room was warm and clickety-click, clickety-click. And you did get up to slide 295 or something like that. It's okay using notes. So don't let me tell you, or anybody tell you, it's not cool to write some notes out. You're better off having some notes and getting out the information than not having notes and making mistakes, or not having notes and leaving bits out. So it's perfectly okay to make some notes. But write your notes in dot points if you can. Don't try to write even a précis, a big essay, and then sit here and read it verbatim. That'll bore people. So try not to do that. It's the same as when you go to make a speech. I would imagine nearly everybody here has had to make a sort of a speech at some times. You have to make them at weddings, funerals, other weddings. They're the sad ones, the weddings. My wife's still down the street, so I'm pretty safe. So try to avoid long, lengthy sentences. And, if you can throw a bit of humour in, that's good. These kind of notes are good at any time, so if you want to throw any now, that's perfectly okay. When you are beginning and, say, doing the critiques for the first time, and you're just starting to get involved into it, try keeping things as brief as possible. So things like, good exposure, it's not sharp, but it was a great idea. That's better than starting a rant of, the exposure's quite good, it's not quite sharp, I can see where you're getting at, etc., 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 etc. Because you'll just get yourself tangled up and you'll go back and start repeating yourself. So if you can keep your comments fairly short and to the point, your audience will love you more for that than having a big spiel. Don't try to turn a 10-minute presentation into a 1-hour presentation. If it was meant to be a 1-hour presentation, have enough material to go for 1 hour. 1 hour is a long time, actually. And sort of finally, and this is not quite finally, but your presentation should be fun. your audience should enjoy it. They should go away and think, oh, that was good, I really like listening to him. And if they can't hear you, that'll be the worst thing. So it doesn't take a really powerful voice to fill a room like this. I know you can hear me down the back pretty well, but for some women who have got quiet voices, you may need to mic them so they don't run out of voice by the end of it. So a glass of water is handy, a glass of brandy is even better. So your audience should really feel that it was a worthwhile experience. Yep. Okay, but there is some more. Yep. Okay. Now, when you're talking about images, I know there's a lot of words in this, but when you're talking about images, just because the image is not your cup of tea, doesn't mean to say it's a bad image. So if you're a judge and you're talking about images and you've got an image and you think, I don't like this kind of stuff, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean to say other people won't like it. You've got to be really careful of this kind of thing. As you judge for longer and longer, you have to be careful, especially with young people, because the kind of images that they're putting up today are not the kind of images that we liked 20 years ago. You know, we have like camera club images, what I call camera club images, and then we have, you know, the AIPP type images, which you may not like, the professional stuff. Really, you need to get out and go to some exhibitions and have a look at some contemporary photography and just take in what the rest of the world is doing. You guys have a pretty good art gallery up here, so you really should go and see it. If you're in Melbourne over the next month or so, there's some really good photography exhibition stuff, and it's all free at NGV. Some great photographers, a lot of contemporary stuff there. Also remember who you're talking to. So if you're talking about a novice image and to novice-y type people, be a little bit more kind. You know, talk about things about photography like sharpness and depth of field and those things that they understand. But when you're talking about to open photographers, people who are more experienced, you can talk about the aesthetics of the picture, you know, how well the composition's been put together. Those kind of things that are more the arty things that they need to know as you step up from being a novice photographer. These days, to a certain extent, novices have it pretty easy because the cameras do 90% of the stuff. But still making a good picture, you can't just rely on the camera. It's these two things that do it. And the picture's got to be interesting. So if you're A grade, you can be a little bit more critical than when you're talking to novice people. The last thing we want to do is make it difficult for novices and turn them off. You know, we really make sure we encourage them. Okay? The way that I was first taught to judge, and I can't remember whether it was Paul or whether it was Adrian Smith or something like that. He said, look, Rob, start off with a good point, and he called it commend. Find something good in the picture that I want to make sure I don't leave you totally out in the cold there. Find something good and talk about it. Then make your recommendation. So commend, recommend, and then try to finish on a high note, on something good again. So try to find a little commend at the end. It's a lot easier with a big picture to go looking for faults than it is to go looking for good things. And sometimes that's a mistake we make. We go looking for a whole pile of faults and we talk all about the faults of the picture, not about the good things of the picture. And the person at the end feels quite depressed or deflated, even though they went to a lot of trouble to make this picture work. So, you know, kind of things you can say, look, the maker did get down low and make an effort to take it from a different angle. And that's a good thing for them to do. Yep. Don't mention things like, I don't know much about bird photography. There's a beautiful picture of a bird up there. Look, I don't know much. I don't know that that's a parrot or a bloody swan. But don't say that because they're going to think, well, geez, it's not going to give me much of a mark for, especially if you're judging open competitions. And also, I've seen enough pictures of bloody flowers to last me a lifetime. I'm really hopeless at abstracts. And you might be. And, you know, I've seen people say, judges say, oh, not another sunset. And I know you probably see a million sunsets in your life, but you don't have to have a go at somebody for doing it. So just be careful, because after a while they're going to believe you're biased. And all of us do have a bit of a bias. My wife thinks I'm biased to portraits, and I probably am a little bit biased to portraits, but I try not to be. The other thing that you can be biased towards is big pictures. So just be careful that here's a big picture, somebody's gone to the trouble of making it, you know, 16 by 20 or something, and here's somebody else with a postcard. Just be careful that you're not being favourable of the big picture. You know, really take a good look at the little picture to make sure that, you know, you're not criticising the little picture just because it's little. It might be a great picture. So really keep an eye on that. Yep. Try and be consistent. You know, do you ever get, somebody gets up and they go, this is a great picture, you know, it's one of the best pictures I've ever seen, and go blah, 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 and they give it 5 out of 15. Or then they really can the picture and they go, well, for tonight, 14. Well, it's like those shows that used to be on television, you know, where some guy comes out and sings, and they really praise him up, and then they say, oh, but tonight I'm judging you for television, you get 3 or something like that. Red Simons used to do it all the time, but I think he did it just to be difficult. Yep. Anybody ever had a go at cold judging? Yeah. I'm cold judging, I think, next week. And it's out at Coldstream, would you believe it or not? It's Yarra Ranges or Yarra Valley or something like that. Cold judging is where you don't get to see the pictures before tonight. There's not many clubs that actually do that. That one out there does. Melbourne Camera Club do it that way. So the first time the judge gets to see the pictures is actually on the night. And if you get called to do that, then the only thing you can do is do your best. You know, try to have a quick look around the room, try to have a look at all the pictures if you can before you start, and then go along and talk about each one. You can't possibly do as good a job as that with doing that as you would be if you've had the pictures for 2 or 3 weeks in advance and you've gone through them. The way I do it at home is I lay them out on the lounge room table. Then I put them in the order of probably the best picture to the least best picture. And then my wife comes in and she criticises it and she tries to move some around. And then, you know, usually somebody like Bert Hoveling drops by for a cup of coffee, and most of you probably know Bert. And he comes in and he has a bit of a whinge about the way I have them. And then, so the plumber drops by and I get him to have another look. And in the end, though, you get it pretty right. And if they sit there for a couple of days, you get them pretty right, and you start picking up the good points on the best pictures and the not so good points on the less best pictures. Not the worst picture, but the less best. And you can do a much better job than you can do with cold judging. But I think the cold judging clubs, they do it because they don't easily have the infrastructure to move the pictures, to get the pictures out to the judges in advance. Okay? Now, don't babble off with too much jargon. I remember once, and this is about 20-something years ago, back in the days when we had film, and the judge said, there was a picture went up on the screen, and it was sort of a very washed out black and white image. And one of the terms we used to use in the darkroom for negatives that lacked in contrast and stuff was they were thin. You know, and the judge said to this, who was the maker of this? And the guy puts his hand up and he says, was the negative a bit thin? And he said, no, it was a normal thickness. And the judge sort of backed away and said, oh, okay, and moved on. But, you know, that can happen. He was a novice kind of person, and he didn't know what the judge was talking about. And there's quite a few things in there. I did look a couple of them up, like SOOC, and there's a couple of others in there that I really, chimping, I had to have another look at, but, you know, they're all on the website. You can check them out sometime. But don't assume that your audience is going to know what all those things mean. They may, but they probably don't, especially if you've got some novices. Okay, next one. We're getting near the end. Terms and conditions. What will happen with some clubs is they will... some clubs will ask you to give a score out of 15. What do you do in vanilla?
20.
Out of 20? I've come across clubs that want them out of 100. There is one club that used to have a handicap system, so they mixed novices and open all together, and the different makers had a handicap, so you didn't know who was going to win on the night. You gave a mark out of 15, I think it was, but then they applied the handicap to it, and so you could give a mark of 10 to somebody and they could actually win if they didn't have much of a bit like playing golf. I have a handicap in golf. It's called the swing. Some will ask you just to pick first, second and third. A lot of clubs now are not asking you to do any of those, just asking to pick a couple of highly commendeds and some commendeds, and they concentrate more on the feedback that they're giving you for the night rather than scores. Scores are becoming less important in many clubs. And sometimes, you know, the only thing they tell you is, look, make sure you're finished by 9:30, which is fine. Yep. Okay, so of these two pictures now, if you were going to pick which one was the winner, which one is the winner? I'd like you to put your hands up who you reckon this one's going to be the winner. Who likes this one the best for the winner? Okay, who likes this one? Okay, this one here's the winner, the one over here. It sold for 4.3 million, and this one here only sold for 1.8. So it's got to be the best picture. This is that's Rhine 2 by, it's Guernsey's the guy, Adrian Guernsey. It's the highest legitimate photograph that's been sold. That was sold at Christie's in New York, 4.2 million or something like that.
What are the fly spots on the horizon there?
I think that's on the screen. Or on my, because I grab these with a screen grabs, you know. So they are a bit sharper than this, but I think Rhine 2 is about from me to you long. So it's got that would make it worth a roundabout.
Yeah, it's a big,
it's a fairly big print.
And you cloned out all the distracting items that were in it.
Well, there's about 4 of them too. There's four bits of it, but you reckon it's a pretty exciting picture? You'd pay 4.2 million for it, would you? No, me neither. Well, that's pretty much. I think that's my last slide. Anybody got any questions?